Hello everyone, this is Tashria. I'm a technical writer for Themium. So my topic is how to create WordPress websites without coding. Now, as a technical writer, I'm usually the bridge between people who are not used to coding and developers, because see, one of the reasons why WordPress is so popular is because we also cater to people who don't necessarily know about coding. So my WordPress website, this website is like the products that we make are also for people who necessarily do not know about coding. So I'll introduce myself a bit. So I'm a WordPress enthusiast, but starting like from my field, I don't necessarily know a lot about coding. I always go for websites that are simple. So I'm basically talking from the user perspective. How users see a certain website. How would they get used to plugins? Because when you're new to WordPress, it can be a bit overwhelming. So the problem, I think of myself as a problem solver because there are so many plugins and themes in WordPress right now that you need to find new problems that you can follow or give a solution to. And that's how you need to think. You need to be a thinker now to be associated with WordPress, because what kind of products would work for WordPress now? Now that there are so many plugins in its market, what do you need? So let's get started. So first thing is that why create websites without coding? If I don't know coding, I can hire a developer or I can go to others for that. So when you're building your own website, you have your complete independence. You can choose or you can change however you want without depending on someone. You don't need any HTML knowledge, and you can redesign. When you're in a competitive field, you need a website that is continuously updated so that you have a competitive edge with your website against others. And major integrations. See, when you're building your website, you need to depend on third parties as well. So there is this factor of major integration with other websites or other social media. And so the question is, why WordPress? There are other CMS platforms as well. So WordPress is, out of all CMS platforms, WordPress ranks about 59% of all the total CMS. So it's popular. Whenever you, as a user, when a user goes who has no knowledge of coding or building websites, to Google, the first name that pops up is WordPress. How to build your website is with WordPress. So when you get this much of a popular website, you have a huge community. We are doing this WordCamp only the year after year. WordCamps are being popular or being successful because of our community. So that community gives us free support. If I'm stuck somewhere, if I'm not okay with something, I have this free support from our WordPress group for free. You can create anything, no matter what niche you have, no matter what kind of website you want to build. You can basically build anything with it, whether it's a crowdfunding site or you're wanting a buy-sell platform like Amazon. You can create anything with WordPress. An easy user interface, like you want it to be user-friendly, not for you only when you're building a website, but for someone who is visiting. So even without any coding knowledge, you can start with WordPress. And it's highly customizable. When you want to build a website, anyone who wants to build a website, they want their website to be unique. So when you have a customizable option, when you can customize according to your wishes, you can make your dream website using WordPress. And obviously, cost is a huge factor. Suppose you're building your skills, or you're just trying out, or you want to build your skills as someone who wants to make WordPress, a website with your WordPress, or you want to go for blogging, but you don't have a huge budget. WordPress is the option to go. And there is some level of security that you can have with WordPress. So the question is, I'm a developer. If I was a developer, why would I need websites without coding? There are a lot of reasons for that. Firstly, when you're building a website, your customers, they don't buy a million hours of code. They want a solution. They don't necessarily know that the level of sophistication you put on your code. They want a solution for the website they're paying for you to build. So end user requirement is something that you need to understand when you're building your website. It's open source, you know what you're getting with WordPress. And you can customize your codes as much as you can, as most of you already would know. One of the most major things that we need to consider is higher efficiency. When you're building your website using WordPress, you have some work already done for you. So you can spend your time, your coding knowledge in things that you can actually use or to improve your site, build on top of it. SEO friendly. For SEO is something that we work with a lot these days. SEO is extremely important when you're building your website, not just for yourself, even if you're a developer, a freelance developer. If you are able to build a website that's SEO friendly, your clients will be more interested to buy it from you. So what you're doing is when you're building SEO friendly websites, WordPress actually acknowledges, even posting your website on WordPress, you would get some organic traffic from it. And inbuilt functionality, some things, when you're planning your website, WordPress has a lot of clean plans for you. That you can go to other websites hosted on WordPress. You can actually, as a newbie developer, you can actually see what you can get from WordPress. So how can I make WordPress websites without coding? This is from a completely user perspective who doesn't know how to start with WordPress. So two options that we know is page builders, which is obviously the popular one. And the second one is Gutenberg, something that we are still figuring out, or something we are still unsure what we are getting into. Another way that could be a very popular way to use is using both Gutenberg and a page builder. So why use page builders? Because a lot of people complain that page builders are slow, or if I'm someone who's using a page builder, am I getting my money's worth? So right off the bat, if you're not a coder, if you want to build a website that is at least compatible or at least competitive in this community, in your industry, you would need a website with some basic functions. And if you don't have the knowledge for it, then how do you start? One of the things that there's a field called requirement engineering. Sometimes when you're building your website for other people. They don't know what they actually want from their website from the start. Suppose you want a login page. Does your login page have a recaptcha option? Does it not? So the thing is that when you're using a page builder, even by seeing some certain options, you will know what you want from your website. So it is great for non-coders, for people who are completely new to the industry. And there are so many options, like I have a thought, but how do I make that thought into being? So when you see those options, you're able to explore what you can do with your website. It opens horizons for you in page builders. And since there are so many page builders right now in the market, each one is trying to be better than the other, which is why there are even more options right now than ever before. Another thing is simplification. Even as a developer, maybe you've experienced it, that when you're coding, sometimes you include so many functions in your website that your visitors might get confused. Or if you're working on a team, there might be some confusions. So simplification is key when you want to build a website that is fully functional. Your visitors should see a website that is simple, and page builders can help you do that. You have clean blocks that you can get from your page builder, layouts, well-planned layouts that have been tested again and true again. Another thing is you get support. When you're investing in a page builder, you get support from a whole team of developers. If you're a startup or you're just building a website by yourself, you need that sort of support. That sort of support will help you build your website clearly. It's cost efficient too, because you're investing on one plugin, but if your website takes off, you can actually earn a lot more exponentially from the website. And it's faster too, because when you're building your website, when you're focusing, when page builders take off so much off your hands, you have time to explore into other options of your websites. How to make it better, how to make better content for your website, how to make it rank better. So let me tell you about some of the basics of using page builders. So now the example that we're using is WP Page Builder. It's one of our products. So you can use it with any page builders. So first you have to do is install your desired page builder plugin. You can do it from WordPress. There are some free ones. Free ones tend to have more bugs than the paid ones usually, but you can install your desired page builder plugin and then just insert your title, create a page in WordPress like you would normally do, and start editing with the page builder that you're using. And you're ready to publish your page. Now one thing is important, that whenever you're building your website using a page builder, use the page builder template. That way the appearance of your website is flawless, because they plan, when they're making a website using WordPress page builder or any page builder, using their template makes it look like how they imagine it to be. Now start editing with your page builder. So this is important. Even though page builder takes a lot of functions off your hands, this is important because at the end of the day, you're the one who's planning your website. So the amount of rows that you want, columns, section, what kind of columns. See, the time that you are getting free from building with page builder, you can utilize on planning the website itself. Like, how many rows do I want? How many columns do I want? Where do I want to start my website? What should my users see when they first go to my website? When you plan that, only then you should start building your website using your desired row and columns. Then the easiest and fun part is dragging and dropping your elements in place. So basically, if you want to put a contact form, or if you want to build a row where you put a background or a picture, that's where you start doing it. So some of the page builders have predefined blocks. At least this one has. So what you can do is, maybe you don't want an entire layout, or you don't want an entire website. You just want one part of your website to look like this. In that case, you will have certain blocks for testimonials or your pricing, and you can just put it right here on your website. That way, not only are you going to be able to customize the other options of other sections of your website, but then the small parts or the easy parts or some parts you don't want to invest a lot of time in, you can just choose the predefined blocks. If you're not willing to code at all, if you want just a given layout that you can customize, then multiple layouts is the way to go. Most of the page builders, they will have layouts that is specific to your niche. So first, when you're thinking of your website, find your niche that I'm going to appeal to this crowd. That way, you will be able to build a website that would be helpful for someone who's going to visit your website. Suppose you want to build a spa website. Suppose you want to build a spa website, or you want to build a gym website. What does your gym website actually cater to? What does it focus on? What's the best part of your gym? When you're building a niche-specific layout, you can choose that from your page builder. So you can just export or import your layouts and start building. Lastly, you might question that if I'm using a layout, it might look similar to someone who's using the same layout. That's not usually the case, because you can also customize. For example, when you're giving pictures, you can insert new pictures in your layouts. You can drag and drop. You can actually customize every aspect of your website using a page builder. What it only does is make things easier for you. And obviously, some people complain that it's laggy or slow, but in that case, do your research, because when you do your research, you will find products, because there are so many, that are extremely fast. So there's an add-on for everything you need. For example, you need a contact form, or you need a carousel, or you want to put Instagram on your website. You want to interlink it, but you don't know how, because you're just new to coding. How do you make Instagram servers connect with your servers? In that case, for every of these option, there is an add-on. and you have the option to utilize your add-on to the maximum. Because when you have so many add-ons, it not only helps make your website look richer, it shows that you have richer content on your website, but it also shows that you put a lot of thought when you're building your website. And the best part is you're doing it for so much less time than you would necessarily do if you were coding it. So reusable design. Suppose I make a website that has a row that I really love and I want to reuse it. How do you do that? So there is a library. You can save all your designs in the library. You can save your entire website. You can save an unfinished work and use it later. So that's the thing. Sometimes a lot of us start building our websites, but we stop halfway and we never go back to it because of some of the reasons. But you can always go back to your own designs. If you're building another website, you can also use those same designs when building the same ones, and you will not have to put that much effort again from the start. So how do you make the most of your page builders? First, try the free version. When you're doing your research, most of the page builders have a free version. If there's a free version, or if you have never used a page builder before, try the free version first. When you try the free version, you're able to see what you can actually get. Or even if you're completely new to this, if you are able to deal with the page builder, if this is for you, or if this is a waste of time for you, you need to try a free version first. Then check for SEO support. Suppose there are integrated themes inside your page builder, you get free themes. Does that support SEO? Will it improve the SEO that you have? Talk with the support group. When you're investing on a page builder, you will get information from the support group a lot. You can ask them what kind of things you'll get, how much you can customize. Know your page builder first before investing in it. And secondly, firstly, you need to understand that sometimes we buy a lot of page builders that have a lot of functionality, but we don't necessarily need it. So why invest on a very expensive page builder if you don't need it? So first, plan out your requirements, that these are the things I want from my website. These are the goals for my website. And then align your requirements and choose the best page builder that you can get. So now that we have pretty much covered the basics of how you can use a page builder or how to make the best out of your page builder, let's talk about Gutenberg. Now, we're still on the edge with Gutenberg because there have been a lot of speculations regarding Gutenberg. I think it's supposed to release this 19th November. So unless until it's completely released and we have a stable version of it, we cannot be sure what we're expecting from Gutenberg. But some of the basics I would be sharing from Gutenberg, because see, when I'm talking from a user perspective, they just learned WordPress. They just learned how to use the default editor. But now there's a new editor, it's called Gutenberg, and everyone is going crazy about it, and they don't know anything because they're non-coders and they're not from this community. How are they going to deal with it? So there are some basics of Gutenberg. There have been so many posts. I personally wrote a post on Gutenberg versus page builders, how it's going to affect page builders. Are they competitors or not? So when I'm talking about Gutenberg, for now, it's not a page builder. Maybe in the future it will replace Gutenberg. Gutenberg will replace page builders. But right now, Gutenberg is not a page builder. So we cannot expect the same sort of functionality, or we cannot refer someone to have the same sort of functionality with Gutenberg that they would get with page builders. However, if you solely want your website to focus on blogging, or if it's a very much content-based WordPress site, you don't necessarily need page builders in that case. You could have done it with the default editor, but using the Gutenberg, it gets much easier. So what Gutenberg for now focuses on is to improve the content. Because I think that was necessary, because with the kind of websites that we have right now, using WordPress alone was not satisfactory. So Gutenberg is that step to go where they would be able to at least start with competing with the modern websites. It's just going to be the default WordPress editor. So when you're starting the Gutenberg journey, you need to understand that there would be changes but you also need, there's not a lot of things to learn. In fact, it's much easier. In fact, if you have some knowledge with page builders, Gutenberg would be very easy for you to understand. So this is a very simple overview on how to use Gutenberg. Blocks are everything. I talked about blocks in page builders, and blocks are just a part of page builders. Sometimes there are no blocks in page builders, but in Gutenberg, blocks are everything. So if you're ever like frustrated with how you put the titles, subheadings, and sometimes like you have problems with how the sizes differ, as a writer, that's a big deal for me because I don't necessarily always want to change between subheadings or headings like that. So Gutenberg blocks are always important because they let you do so much customization. You don't necessarily need to understand, to have a basic understanding of WordPress because the functions are pretty self-explanatory. There's a block for putting your content, and you can just do that accordingly and place it however you like. So drag and drop is something that is not yet integrated in all aspects, but from what we gather is that there is going to be a drag and drop option for every aspect of Gutenberg in the future. Images. Now this is something that I'm personally very happy about because when you're writing something in Gutenberg as a writer, images. I want to know how my images look. If you have ever written a post on Medium, it's so much easier. Like you can just upload your content and then you can just see how it looks. Even with page builders, one of the best aspects is you can see how it looks like visual editor. So when we are placing these blocks on Gutenberg, we have an idea of how our content would look. So images are a great aspect this time that you can just choose your image and you don't have to like shift every time you add an image to your content. Another thing are widgets and other features of Gutenberg. So there are 3 block-based widgets right now. One is short categories. So when you're building a blog, since it's content-based, your content would show these 3. So when users go to your website, they would be able to see what your latest posts are. They can see your categories, and even Gutenberg lets you add third-party widgets. So that makes the process so much easier because you can just add your widgets and your blog would feel more complete. Now there are certain layout elements in Gutenberg. There's the more element. So basically, it helps you limit how much you want your reader to see. So suppose I want an excerpt, but I don't want to show the entire blog post right now. So I can use the more category. After I place all my text, I can limit that this is the amount I want them to see. There's also the spacer layout that you can put between your paragraphs. And you can drag and drop it. When you drag and drop it, you can choose or customize how much space you want between your paragraphs. Now text columns, there are 2 versions of text columns right now. One text column lets you choose the size of the text, basic text, you have 4 sizes right now, small, large, and medium, extra large of text columns. And then there's columns beta. Now columns beta is the experimental one. Here you get a lot of more options, and even the menu for the columns beta one is currently different. So the columns beta would help you choose the color. It has a more inbuilt customization option. You have the option to choose colors, you have the option to choose sizes, you can choose the background colors. So there are a lot of things that are going into columns beta that is still in the experimental version of Gutenberg. So right now, Page Builder is not, Gutenberg is not competitive with page builders, but you can use both. You can use both right now because you can edit with Gutenberg and then start building your page with page builders. So what you're getting is amazing content from Gutenberg. You can place your paragraphs however you like, or if blog posts are a part of your website, you're getting that, and at the same time you're getting the design and functionality of page builders. So before I end, from a visitor or from someone who's in the business development team, we want to understand how your website looks. So these are some of the tips and tricks that you should consider when building your website. When you're using a WordPress website for business, it's more important that you place it on wordpress.org instead of wordpress.com. They promote that more. Then do your research. Do your research because it's important. What kind of, like I said, what kind of niche you're supporting, what kind of plugins you should use. So it's important because you don't want your website to look clumsy or that it's not planned. Lastly, be careful with your shortcodes. Your shortcodes should be organized. It shouldn't be messy. And don't overcrowd your WordPress site with plugins. You don't want your visitors to get lost or get confused when they're visiting your website. Because when you overcrowd your page with plugins, sometimes you might be missing out on important information or something that you want to highlight, but they're not seeing it because there's just too much information. You have to understand when your visitor goes to your website, they only give you a chance of a few seconds to see if your website is good enough. So you want that kind of attention from them, and you won't be able to do that if you're overcrowding your website with plugins. Now, responsiveness. A lot of your users would go to your site from different devices. So choose a page builder, or always when you're choosing or making your website, see if it's responsive across all browsers and across all devices. There is then the option of security and first impression. It should have the graphics of first impression. And updates. Keep your website updated, because when your website is updated, users would know that you're making conscious effort to make your website better. Speed. You want a speedy website. You won't get users if your website is taking a lot of time to load. And lastly, connect your site with Google Analytics, because SEO is important, SERP is important. And lastly, codes don't define your website. You don't have to be an amazing coder to have an amazing website. Just start somewhere and you will reach your goal. Thank you.